Alright, so today's story begins out in the country and then moves to the city. Now, think about the country, think about the city. You might not know what each of them look like, and I'm going to explain that to you right now. This is a picture of what the country looks like. Out in the country, there's a lot of grass and fields and trees and farms. But in the city, there's a lot of buildings and roads and people and traffic lights. So, where would you expect to see more people? Point your finger to where you think you would see more people. So either point your finger over here on this picture or point your finger on this picture. The answer is you would see more people in the city. Alright. Where would you see more cars? Would you see more cars in the city or would you see more cars in the country? Point your finger to the picture where you would see more cars. You would see more cars in the city. Where would you see more trees and plants? Where would you see more trees? Point your finger to the picture where you would see more trees. Would you see more trees in the country or in the city? You would see more trees in the country. Alright, so some things to think about. Alright? Things can be alike and different in a story, and that's what makes it interesting. When you hear about city life and country life in the story, what things might be the same? What things might be different? Well, the characters might act a little different, that's for sure, because I live out in the country, and I know I act different than people that live in the city. Okay, so they might act a little different. They might like different things. Alright? So anyway, the story we're going to read today is called The City Mouse and the Country Mouse. So here we go. One day, a country mouse wrote a letter to his cousin who lived in the city, inviting him to come home for a visit. The city mouse quickly accepted the invitation and said that he would come. The country mouse was happy because he was eager to hear about the exciting things that happened in the city. The following week, when the city mouse arrived in the country, he was dressed in a very fancy outfit. He wore a silk top hat and a long velvet coat and a colorful vest. Around his neck was a huge orange tie, and he carried a silver cane in one paw. Now, to greet his guest, the country mouse had put on his very best too, a simple brown one that fit his very best vest. A simple brown one that fit very nicely over his work shirt and pants. Alright, now let's stop here and think. What can you tell me about the two mice so far? Well, you should be able to tell me that one mouse lives in the city and one mouse lives in the country. You should also be able to tell me that one mouse, this one, dresses very fancy, and this mouse, the country mouse, dresses very simple. Alright? So they're a little different from each other, and that's okay. Let's keep reading. After a brief rest and some tea, the two mice went for a walk through the peaceful woods. They wandered along the country roads and up and down hills and through woods, where they heard singing birds and the bubbling of a brook. That evening, the country mouse served dinner to his friend. There were nuts and berries and pumpkin seeds, and for dessert, a few morsels of cheese. It was good. Simple country food, and the country mouse served it on his very best dishes. The city mouse only picked at his food. He didn't like it very much. He ate just to be polite. Finally, he said to his friend, "Don't you find things a bit dull here in the country? In the city, we have shops and carriages, shows and parties, and all kinds of fancy foods to eat any time we want. Why not come with me now? I'll show you what real living is like." So, both mice have things to eat and things to do at home. How does the city mouse sound different from the country mouse? Well, the city mouse sounds like he likes to do a lot of really neat things, go to parties and see shows and all that kind of stuff. But the country mouse, he seems like he just likes to do simple things like go for a walk and enjoy the simple things in life. So let's keep going. Soon the country mouse packed the suitcase and off the two mice went to the big city. It was quite late at night when they arrived, but the streets were still filled with people, horses, carriages, carts, dogs, and even cats. At last they reached the beautiful mansion where the city mouse lived. It was brightly lit, and sounds of the music and laughter could be heard everywhere. Inside, the country mouse's eyes were like saucers when he saw soft velvet chairs and chandeliers sparkling with crystal and gold. And the dining room, oh, it was set for a great feast. And now it was the city mouse's turn to offer food to his guest. He showed the country mouse to cheese as large as pumpkins and piled as high as mountains. There were plates and bowls and platters heaped with all kinds of meats and fruits, and trays of sweet desserts piled almost as high as the sky. Now, I want you to stop and I want you to think. How is the city mouse's meal different than the country mouse's meal? Well, the city mouse's meal was very big and very extravagant, and the country mouse's meal was very simple. They barely had any cheese. He made some very good food for what he was able to do. All right, so let's keep moving. The country mouse could not believe his eyes. He had never seen or tasted such food in all his life. He wondered how he could have ever been happy in his simple country home. But just as he was tasting a bit of a luscious blueberry tart, he heard a loud noise in the hall. Then the big doors to the dining room burst open, and in marched a great crowd of people, all talking and laughter and shouting. The two mice jumped quickly from the table, and they ran. They hid for what seemed like a very long time, until the room quieted down and the people left. When they finally crept out of the hiding place, there, still on the table, were leftover pieces of cheese, half-eaten bread crust, and even small pots of peanut butter, all the things mice just love to eat. So the two friends scampered back to the table and sampled one of everything. They nibbled this and nibbled that. They were just about to have some tasty pie crust for dessert when, pounce! Out of nowhere, a great, sleek, green-eyed monster leapt onto the table. "It's a cat! Run for your life!" squeaked the city mouse. He pushed his cousin to the floor, and the two ran down the hallway to the pantry and into a tiny, cramped mouse hole. Quickly, they closed the tiny door and stood listening to their tiny, frightened hearts beating like drums. So, listen. Can you hear the drums? Have you ever heard a heart sound like a drum? Not really. So do you think the author was just trying to tell you how hard their heart was beating Yeah, that's what I think. So let's continue. We only have a little bit more to go. When they finally climbed down, they were sure the cat was gone from the other side of the door. The country mouse said to his cousin, "Thank you for inviting me to the city, but I like the country life better. I think I'll go home in the morning." And so he did, and ran the whole way. Alright, so that was our story. Now, what I need you to do is we actually have a worksheet, practice book page 57. And what you need to do on this page first is print it out. Then you need to put your name right up here on this line. Okay? Then what I need you to do is I need you to look outside of your home, or think about your home if you're not there right now. And think, when you look outside, do you see what the city mouse would see? A big city? Do you see city, big buildings, cars, lots of people? Or do you see the country? Do you see lots of trees and fields and animals and very, very few roads? You'll have to figure that out, okay? But what I need you to do is only color one picture, whichever one you see when you look outside your window. Do you see tall buildings, or do you see a lot of open fields? All right, so that's up to you. You need to color that, and while you're working, have someone take a picture of you, and then have someone take a picture of your finished work, and then submit them below. Have fun, try and stay inside the lines, and use lots of colors.